Quick tips how to cut weight like a champ, like a boss. Stop being a little kid about cutting weight, okay? Little kids cut weight. First of all, little kids shouldn't be cutting weight. But when I talk about little kids, I mean little kids inside. A lot of times, high school kids, they're cutting weight the wrong way. A lot of college kids, they're cutting weight the wrong way. So we're going to give you some quick tips on how to cut weight like a champ. First of all, you should be drinking, unless it's 48 hours, the 48-hour rule. Unless it's 48 hours before you're competing, you shouldn't be restricting your water weight at all, okay? If you're doing that, that means you're cutting weight like a kid, okay? So make sure you're drinking a lot of water. I remember at the wrestling camps I used to go to as a kid, they would say up until those 48 hours, you should be drinking, not only should you be drinking a gallon of water every single day, but every time you pass a water fountain, every time throughout the school day, you get a drink. Okay, it's that serious. We have a lot of athletes, they need to make weight on Friday or Saturday. They start restricting themselves water weight on Monday. That's ridiculous. That's cutting weight like a kid. Okay, we want to grow up. We want to do this like mature men, like UFC fighters, like the good UFC fighters, and like the really good wrestlers. Okay, so we're not touching our water intake until 48 hours before you got to make weight. Okay, just take that off the table. Next, important mindset. Cutting weight does not make you a better wrestler. Cutting weight doesn't make you a better wrestler. Getting better at wrestling makes you a better wrestler. Think about that, internalize it. Just because you cut weight and get down to a lower weight does not make you a better wrestler. You're no better technically, your skills aren't any better. You may be a little bit bigger, you may be a little bit stronger, but you're not a better wrestler. So the best way to become a better wrestler is get better at the sport of wrestling. A big mental hiccup that I see with athletes, big mental mistake, usually in practice, they're wrestling scratch weight in the off season, and their wrestling partner is sometimes 10, 15 pounds heavier than them. And you ask a kid how they're feeling. They're saying, oh, I'm feeling strong. I'm wrestling really well against this wrestler who's a lot bigger than me, right? But then on the other hand, they get down, they drop 10 pounds in the season, or for an off-season tournament, they drop down the weight, 10 pounds, and now they complain, that kid was real big, they were real strong. Well, now wait a minute. So before you were 10 pounds heavier, and you were wrestling a kid 15 pounds heavier than you in practice, and you felt real strong, and now you actually cut 10 pounds, and you're wrestling someone who's the same weight as you, and he felt real big, that's a soft mentality, and we see that a lot these days. In the off-season, you shouldn't be cutting much weight at all. If you're eating healthy all year round, you should be striving to learn the virtue of clean eating, disciplined eating. So not gorging yourself with food. That's not just a wrestling lesson. That's a life lesson. You don't eat until you're completely full. Okay, I think it's the Chinese who said you eat until you're about 70% full, and then you stop. That's discipline. Okay, that's so you don't feel like a blob after, right? So make sure you're learning good virtues for the rest of your life. Too many fat coaches, too many wrestlers also get fat after their career's done. What does that mean? We're not picking on anyone here, right? We're all on a quest to learn, right? All of us can learn. All of us can get better. But a lot of times we gain weight. Look, I'm not as thin as I used to be either. But a lot of times we're focused too much on making weight and not as much on making good, lifelong, clean eating decisions. What are good substitutes when I eat? So throughout the week, unless we're talking about before practice or before competition, getting in the habit of eating whole grains, having whole wheat bread, having brown rice, things like that, making good decisions like that, changing little things instead of drinking fruit juice or soda, getting in the habit of drinking water, right? Instead of drinking, and even the sugary, being careful. We're not just drinking Gatorade or Powerade as a snack. You're just loading up with sugar. Okay, now if we're talking about before a competition, it's a different story. And we know, before matches, you want to be drinking Gatorade. After matches, you want to be drinking Powerade. It has something to do with, I remember my exercise science department, back when I was at Rutgers University, they talked about that. And the way I remember is Gatorade came out before Powerade. So Gatorade is before competition, Powerade is after. It has to do with the electrolytes, the glucose, the sugar, that kind of stuff. But you shouldn't be just drinking Gatorade and Powerade for fun, unless we're hydrating in between practice or before a competition, right? So we're making lifelong good eating and drinking decisions. We're learning discipline when it comes to food. And you shouldn't have to cut that much weight if you stay in good shape all year round and you're eating healthy. Your activity level is through the roof, right? Don't make the common mistake of saying, look, I have a six-pack, I have great abs, therefore I could eat whatever I want. That's thinking like a 10-year-old kid. Okay, if you want to think high level, great people, it doesn't matter. You could have great abs. What you want to be doing is making sure you're fueling your body well. Remember, you would never put garbage You wouldn't put garbage fuel into a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, or a McLaren, right? You're going to put in premium fuel, right? If you're saying your goal on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is how important your goal is to you, and you're eating at a level 2, it's really not a 10 of level of importance for you. Okay? So if how important it is for you to reach your goal is a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, your eating has to reflect that. Your life choices have to affect that. Okay, so make sure we're cutting weight. Also, we have to get enough sleep. 8 hours of sleep. Okay? If you look at how growth hormone is released in your body, during your sleep, there's growth hormone spikes that occur in your sleep. Okay? Between hour 6 and hour 8. If you don't sleep 8 hours, if you only sleep 6 hours, you miss that last growth hormone spike. Now, what does that mean? That means, okay, the growth hormone, which is releasing it's helping your testosterone, it's helping your metabolism, it's helping your fat oxidation, it's helping your protein synthesis, all those important functions in your body that are going to help you lose weight, that are going to help you, with muscle and everything. Those are shutting down if you're not getting enough sleep. Also, if you're not hydrated enough. If you're not hydrated, your sleep and your fluid intake, water, specifically water. Okay? If you're not having enough, what's going to happen is, again, fat oxidation drops, metabolism drops, protein synthesis drops. All your major systems are shutting down. So eat healthy all year round so you don't have to cut a lot of weight. Also, we need to start adopting the Gable mentality. When it comes to our weight, okay, when you talk about Dan Gable, he was able to beat everyone on the lineup. He was one of the smallest guys on the team. Well, he was like, 140s? And he was able to beat everyone on the team, okay? So remember this, pound for pound, that's a theoretical thing. That doesn't actually exist. Can you beat everyone on the team or not? And I'm saying this, be very careful about this. Don't misunderstand me. That doesn't mean all of a sudden if you're a 120-pounder, you're picking a match against the heavyweight or the 220-pounder. That's not what I'm saying. But get in your head also that just, okay, if you're the best on the team, that means you could beat everyone on the team. If so don't look at, I'm pound for pound, right? Because ultimately at the end of the day, especially once your wrestling career is over, that doesn't matter. Okay, pound for pound is theoretical. Dan Gable was able to beat everyone on the team. And when I think about the Gable mentality, I'm thinking also about someone like Kyle Dake, who won 4 NCAA championships in 4 different weights. In other words, he'd wrestle anyone, anywhere, anytime. I think of a guy like Ben Askren. He'll always, anytime there's a competition thrown his way, he's always taking it. Whatever weight, doesn't make a difference. He's ready to go. Conor McGregor compete in 3 different weight classes, right? Frank Chamizo, he's going for his 3rd world title in 3 different weights. So again, don't get so caught up in the weight. If you're good, you're good. Okay, don't think, I have to be down this weight and everything like that, because that'll just mess you up. Okay, so making sure we're building virtue, clean eating, our mentality is right. We don't care about pound for pound. We'll wrestle anyone. Okay, having that attitude where you'll wrestle anyone. In fact, if you're when you're competing, if you're one of the best guys on the team, you should be asking your coach to bump up weights to go against different people, right? Constantly get used to wrestling bigger competition. That helps you with cutting weight because now you're not thinking so much about it. So many athletes, wrestlers, we're cutting weight so much that we're getting it in our head. We're beat before even we step out there. Next, have a cut weight playlist. Okay? I remember a good song by the Goo Goo Dolls, Long Way Down. Long way down. That's what it feels like when you're cutting weight. It's a long way coming down. Well, things like that make it fun. That's a good thing. Maybe songs that make you more energized, make you smile and laugh. Do things to make yourself laugh so the whole time you're not complaining. Okay? A lot of athletes, a lot of wrestlers, when they're cutting weight, they're complaining the whole time. That's not good. Okay? It's stress hormones are being released. It's not helping you cut weight. And frankly, it's a part of the sport. You just have to accept that cutting weight is part of the sport. So make it fun. A lot of times I'd be running on the treadmill in my basement. I'd shut most of the lights. I'd put on sunglasses. I'd put on a funny hat, and I would run on the treadmill. Okay, what was that about? That wasn't actually doing anything physically for me. But what it was doing, it was making me smile and laugh, and I was having a good time. Right? So it's part of the sport. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. Right? And you look at it, it's making you better. You're going to be better. You're going to be more prepared. Like this is helping you. Not using the words mindset for our mindset. We don't want to use the words I have to cut weight. I got to cut weight. I want to. I choose to. I'm going to. right? So it's the way we approach it mentally. Also, after your matches, remember this, normally you're going through a 2-hour, 2.5-hour practice. Let's say you have a dual meet. Okay, normally you practice for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Now you just wrestled 6 or 7 minutes. Okay? Your opponent had a 2.5-hour practice. You wrestled for 6 or 7 minutes. And you got a warm-up in, so maybe total time, it's like, what, half hour? Tops, right? You should be working out after you're done with the match. You want to talk about how to cut weight, how to have good habits? Okay, make sure that after you're done competing, first things first, you come off the mat, hit a few sprints, and blow out your lungs. Make sure you're completely shot. Okay, that's the time to really gas that conditioning, that technique at the end of the year. Don't put on any sweats. You don't put on sweats at that point. Gas it out with sprints as soon as you're done. Then after you're tired, then you throw on the sweats, and then for at least 3 matches, hit the jump rope. Clack, 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 clack. That's when you could throw on your sweats and cut some weight. Even if you don't have a competition the next day, you don't have to throw sweats on for that. It's just hit the jump rope, right? Right after. Keep the sweat going, right? So that you should be doing that after all of your matches. Hit a couple sprints, then throw on your clothes, and then hit the jump rope for at least 3 matches. Now that's good because it's going to keep the weight under control. It's going to give you a little bit extra of a workout. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna feel better, right? It's gonna also anything you ate, to keep you light, keep you loose. So get that jump rope in. Next, when you're at practice, I can't stress this one enough. When you're in practice, you could have sweats on sometimes, or long sleeves on and everything. When you're going live, or when you're doing conditioning or sprints, the sweats have to come off. The long sleeves have to come off. Okay, that's terrible for you. There's a time to cut weight. I get it. It's part of the sport. That's why I'm making the video. But there's a time and a place for that. When you're doing conditioning and when you're doing live wrestling, your entire aim is to get better at wrestling or to make yourself as tired as possible. When you're doing conditioning, you want to gas it out. I don't care what anyone says. You know this in your heart too. When you're wearing sweats or long sleeves, you can't give 100% effort. If your room is really, really hot, you can't go all out. You can't do it, all right? So what you got to do is before you go live or before you start any kind of conditioning, you have to kick the sweats off because now is your time to make yourself as tired as possible and work as hard as you can. Take it from me in this area. This was one thing I was pretty good at. I was always a cardio machine. Why? I never did conditioning or I never wrestled live with sweats or long sleeves. I didn't do it because I knew it was going to cut into my ability to go all out. One of the few things I did really well in my career. Okay, so I want to share that with you. Even if some of the best wrestlers on your team do this, don't do that. Trust me. Kick the sweats, kick the long sleeves, and go as hard as you can during live and as hard as you can during conditioning. Once that's over, then you can throw the sweats on after practice. All right, you want to jump some rope or roll around or stretch or whatever it is. That's when you put the sweats on. But do not wrestle live, do not run sprints, and do not do conditioning with sweats on. It's ridiculous. It's counterproductive to your goal. You want to be a cardio machine in your matches. You want to run your opponent into the ground. It ain't gonna happen if you're doing the long sleeves and you have too hot of a wrestling room. Okay, it's not the time for it. Okay, so keep that in mind. Like we said, you have the cut weight playlist. Keep it fun. Make sure you just realize it's part of the sport. No problem. Okay, and use it as life lessons. Life lessons in don't gorge yourself with food. So this teaches you lessons even later on in life. You have Thanksgiving meal. You don't have to stuff yourself. You don't have to come out of the table like, in a food coma, right, and all that stuff. You want to make sure after you eat, you're feeling pretty good. You could learn that lesson in wrestling. The beautiful thing about cutting weight is you actually get to build up a virtue and learn a lesson that other people really don't work on as a high school kid, right? As a young kid, middle school, and even before, I'm not really a believer. I just don't think you should be cutting weight. That even the off season, I'm just not a believer in cutting too much weight, really at all. Because what happens is it sucks the life out of you for enjoyment of the sport. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it because again, it's if you're looking at wrestling as a marathon, not a sprint, and you're throughout the off season too. You're cutting 10 pounds for tournaments? That's ridiculous. Wrestle what you weigh. Think about this. You're traveling all across the country to get better competition, right? You're cutting 10, 15 pounds in the off season, right? You want the better competition? Go to the local tournament that's down the road, or if you're in high school, wrestle in the college open division in high school. Wrestle what you weigh. How about that? You don't even have to go that far. I'm not saying it doesn't pay to. Sometimes you do want to do that. Sometimes you do want to go to these national tournaments. I'm not putting that down. Don't misunderstand me. But a lot of times, you could get good competition locally. You could be tested if you just wrestle what you weigh. So let's get in the habit of doing that. Middle school, off season, you just don't want to do it. We've seen it with too many athletes. Work with tens and thousands of athletes, not just me, but me and our 80 other mindset coaches across the country, across the U.S. We've seen it. Kids burn out by the time they're in high school. So cutting weight doesn't make you a better wrestler. Becoming a better wrestler makes you a better wrestler. Implement these tips. You'll cut weight like a champ, and you'll learn great life lessons. Mindset makes the difference.